This episode is deeply personal to me. I come from a family with a strong history of diabetes. I've watched people I love navigate this condition, some with grace, some with complications, and others without even realizing they were on that path. That's why I'm passionate about sharing this one with you, because awareness can change your future. Welcome back to the Gutsy Chick podcast, where high-performing women are decoding their body's whispers, becoming more resilient, honoring their drive, and rewiring their body, mind, and spirit from the inside out. I'm your host, Amanda Smith, medical intuitive for these high-driven, high-performing women who have chronic shit shows. And the Western world doesn't even know how to help them. Right now, we are in a series that I hope you've been paying attention to. It's called the 3 S's. These are the foundational hormones that if you get right, all the other hormones just work. I call them the 3 S's because they are stress, the hormone is cortisol; sugar, the hormone is insulin; and sex, the hormone is oxytocin. These really do influence everything from your energy to your cravings to your mood to your metabolism to your burnout and recovery. So this episode, we're going to dive into what is sugar. If you think you know, you probably don't. I learned something new about this when I was doing my research on it, and it's a fun word to say, but we'll get there. So you're going to learn about what sugar is, what insulin is, what a blood sugar spike looks like, feels like, and how to prevent it, the crashes that happen from these blood sugar spikes, and what every body should know. Whether you're healthy, at risk, or managing diabetes, this is your episode. And a little teaser, the next solo episode that I'm doing is on how the brain and the science that we're learning about the brain and insulin. And it's probably going to be one of my most controversial episodes. So I hope you stick around for that. That's in 2 episodes from this one. Let's start with sugar. Fructose, sucrose, glucose, lactose, and the kicker on lactose, and this is the word, galactose. I'd never heard that before. Here's the breakdown. Glucose is the body's preferred fuel. This one needs help balancing. We have to play a balancing act with glucose. Glucose goes into our bloodstream, triggers insulin, and then gets used by our muscles, our brain, or it's stored as glycogen or fat. That last one is the most important piece of the glucose puzzle. Glucose is quick energy, and it's controlled by insulin. And I'll get to how it's controlled by insulin and what insulin does with it. But glucose is the one that heavily interacts with insulin. So that's the one I'm going to put a good amount of focus on. But you need to know these other ones. Fructose. This is sugar from fruit, honey, high fructose corn syrup. Fructose doesn't spike your blood sugars. not directly at least, but it's not totally off the hook. It skips the bloodstream and it heads straight to the liver. Fructose tends to create, in large quantities and chronic quantities, fatty liver disease. If you eat a little, the liver turns it into glucose. Welcome back, glucose. Or it stores it as glycogen. Again, that storing piece, I can't wait to explain that one to you because like understanding that is huge. When you eat a lot of fructose, so think like sodas, high fructose corn syrup. Remember, fructose is high fructose corn syrup, and they bury that in so many of our foods. So sodas or highly processed sweets. The liver converts the excess fructose into fat. And this is where it leads to fatty liver disease, insulin resistance, and high triglycerides. If you're seeing those on a blood panel or a urine test, look at how much fructose you're consuming. And I don't just mean fruit. Look at the things that you're eating that have high fructose corn syrup in it. The next one, sucrose. This is your regular, everyday, highly processed, white devil, table sugar. This is a combination of glucose, which we already know insulin gets to using glucose, or transporting it is really what it's doing, and fructose, which you just heard about. This one splits into your gut into glucose and fructose. And then it follows the usual paths that glucose and fructose, which you just learned, follow. So glucose goes into the muscle or it gets stored, and fructose goes into the liver or it gets stored. Oh, the storing part. Common sources of this, everyday table sugar. So that white table sugar that you might put in your coffee, or some people pour it over their cereal, which cereal's already got a lot of sucrose in it. So adding it on top of that just blows my mind. But that was something I witnessed as a child. Baked goods, as I already mentioned, sugary cereals, sauces and syrups. Those are the other ones to look for. Lactose. This is sugar in milk. And it gets broken down into lactase enzymes. Galactose. This one blows me away. Galactose and glucose are the two things that make up lactose. But we also get the lactase enzymes. It's broken down into that. Galactose is converted into glucose by the liver. So remember, the liver will convert it into glucose. So if you're lactose intolerant, you lack lactase, which leads to bloating, gas, and discomfort. It's a sugar. Other sugars tend to bloat people as well. They tend to create gas in other people as well. If a sugar is considered low glycemic, we might even call it sugar-free. But from what you just heard, are they off the hook? No. It doesn't mean they're harmless. Fructose in high doses quietly builds fat in your liver, contributes to inflammation, and worsens metabolic health. Even if blood sugar looks normal at first. Ooh, that's the catch. Think of it this way. Glucose shouts. It shouts. It spikes, it crashes, it triggers insulin. Fructose whispers. It doesn't spike, it doesn't crash, but it slowly stresses your liver and leads to silent damage. That one's the tricky one. That's the one that I've had several friends and family find out. Holy crap, I have fatty liver disease. When you combine glucose and fructose, like table sugar or soda, that's when your body really takes a hit. What is insulin? It's a hormone made by the pancreas that helps glucose either enter cells for energy. So your mitochondria takes it and uses it for energy, immediate energy, or it gets stored as glucose. Amy Gallo explains in the best way possible in episode 71 how this whole thing works like a spacecraft. Insulin is the spacecraft, and it transports the glucose into your cells or into long or short storage. This storage thing is really fascinating to me, and this is where people really get hijacked. The best word for it is hijacked. Glycogen storage. This is your short-term storage. It gets stored in your muscles and your liver. If your body doesn't need the glucose for immediate energy, fast energy, it gets stored. So muscles use it for movement, strength, and endurance. The liver uses it to keep blood sugar stable between meals or overnight. Think of glycogen like your body's backup battery, quick to access when you need a burst of energy. So it gets used unless we've got too much of it or we've got issues processing it. There's a limit to how much your body can store. So once those lockers are full, the extra glucose has to go somewhere else, and it goes into long-term storage. This is your fat storage. Glycogen stores are full, so excess glucose gets converted into fat. Visceral fat, which is around your organs. Subcutaneous fat, which is under the skin. This is where you start to see things like cellulite. And then liver fat, which can lead to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Your body literally turns sugar into fat when it doesn't need it for energy. So the storage process is why insulin sensitivity matters. If your body's insulin resistant, and this is where the whole diabetes train tends to begin. Pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes. This is where it begins. You have an insulin sensitivity. Your cells stop responding to insulin. They stop responding to the signal that insulin will transport the glucose from your bloodstream. So glucose can't get into the cells. It just stays in your bloodstream. And this is where high blood sugar happens. Or it gets turned into fat, especially around the belly and the organs. When your body doesn't need glucose right away, where does it store it? The muscles and the liver. That's your backup energy source. But once those are full, the extra sugar gets converted to fat. This is why chronically high sugar intake, especially without movement, often leads to fat gain. Not because fat is the enemy, but because sugar had nowhere else to go. Pay attention to refined carbs and added sugars. These are the ones that tend to flood the bloodstream. So if we're eating fruit, fructose isn't flooding the bloodstream. But things that have added sugars and refined carbs. So these are the ones that are in your baked goods. These are the ones that are in your cereals and your pastas. Those flood the bloodstream. And that forces the insulin to respond. And if you become insulin resistant, the insulin doesn't respond anymore. Fiber is a huge piece of the puzzle. Fiber is something that I've started to really pay attention to in my diet. I've even played around with putting fiber in first to help the lining of my gut so that that transfer into my bloodstream isn't so intense. Fiber slows sugar absorption and it supports insulin regulation. That might be something that you play with as well. Let's look at blood sugar spikes and crashes. This is the roller coaster that most people go on throughout the day. When I was in aerospace, it was fascinating to me to watch people's blood sugar spike and fall, especially in the afternoon. That afternoon nap after you've had lunch. That's a blood sugar response, people. And the response that we tend to go with to combat that while we're at work is to douse it with a sugar bomb. We go for an energy drink that tends to have a ton of added sugar. Look at how many grams your added sugar is in those energy drinks. It is fascinating. Some better sources of energy if you're experiencing this and don't fully understand how to balance your blood sugar. Go for coconut water, watermelon water, even prickly pear water. These are all electrolytes that have very low sugar content. And that sugar content is in the form of fructose. So no, it's not going into your bloodstream. It's headed to your liver. How fascinating, right? High glycemic foods. So these are table sugars. These are the added sugars. These are the refined carbs. They spike your blood sugar fast. Then there's an insulin surge, and then blood sugar crashes. So we've got this spike, and the immediate response is, oh my gosh, I have a lot of work to do in this body. Time to crash. It creates fatigue, cravings, mood swings, and eventually insulin resistance. Look at how much fiber you're eating and then go for adding more fiber. Fiber looks like vegetables, green leafy vegetables, the ones that we tend to hate as children. Those. Look at how much sugar you're consuming throughout the day. If you've never used a tracking device for your food like MyFitnessPal, that is my favorite one because it's free, it's easy to use, and it doesn't throw a boatload of ads at you. That tool will enlighten you if you track your food for 3 days. It's so enlightening to see how little you're eating in fiber and how much you're eating in sugar. Yeah. Give it a roll. See what happens. That is probably my favorite piece of advice if you're willing to see and look in the mirror. It will help curb this roller coaster chaos that you might be experiencing with the blood sugar surges and the blood sugar crashes. If you're noticing that you need a nap after lunch and you still got work to do for the day, you are not in a balanced place with your blood sugar, and it's leading to other crazy things. Let's talk about sugar addiction. This is more than willpower, people. Sugar addiction is something that is placed in front of us on a day-to-day basis because our entire grocery store, except for the perimeter, and they're even getting smart about that now too, was designed to get you addicted to sugar. Yeah, think about that. Here's the neurological addiction loop, and I'm going to go into this way, way more on my next solo episode, where we're going to talk about the neurology and the science of how insulin and the brain play together. Sugar lights up dopamine. Dopamine makes us happy. Happiness, pleasure in this form, this dopamine sugar response, creates a craving. Rinse and repeat. Ugh. Sugar, dopamine. Oh, that was nice. Craving, repeat. Got it? It doesn't trigger the fullness hormone. This is the catch. So we're not getting full by eating these foods that are really high in sugar. So it's really easy to overconsume. Here's where the addiction comes in. I've opened the bag. I've taken one out. Oh my gosh, this is really good. Oh my gosh, I've eaten half the bag. Oh my gosh. I should put these away, but they taste so good. Oh my gosh, I'm not getting full. There's an emotional piece and a cultural root to sugar. Reward, comfort, bonding. These are all the cultural and emotional responses. You won the spelling bee. Let's go get ice cream. This was something that happened as a child for me. Can you tell? We had always go to Baskin Robbins. It was my favorite place. And what that ended up turning into as I got into my 20s was, oh, I got a big hit at the softball game. I played softball games almost every other day. I got a big hit at the softball game. We're going to get Dairy Queen. Got to get our Blizzard. That's that emotional, cultural tie-in and the bonding and the comfort and the reward. Yeah, I lived this. And then I had to unwind it from myself. And not in a way that you would have expected. I'm going to go into that much deeper on the next episode, next solo episode. Fructose is a tricky one because we're told, eat your fruits and vegetables. And then something like V8 got created. And V8, you got your vegetables. And then they added in fruit. Sneaky suckers. I absolutely loved the V8 that had berries in it. That was my favorite V8. And I was like, oh, I'm getting all of my fruits and vegetables in this one bottle. Fructose overload. Liver stress. Silent damage over time. Yeah. Rinse and repeat. Some addictive behaviors to pay attention to. Binging. Like I was talking about, I opened that bag and I realized I ate half of it and I'm wanting to eat the rest of it. So I'm just going to finish that bag. That's binging. Withdrawal. Oh my gosh, I need to put those cookies away. I need to hide them from myself, or I will eat all of them. Oreo cookies, right off the top. That's probably the one that caught me, especially in college. I could eat an entire package of Oreo cookies in one sitting, but I would hide them from myself so that I wouldn't do that. Now, I was a college athlete, so I had the need to have that extra energy, but that was the wrong version. And you don't know that when you're in college. More and more kids should be taught in their schools about nutrition. But there's so much misinformation out there. It's so frustrating. Withdrawal means I have to hide that from myself. But I really, really, really want it. I know it's there. And then compulsive eating. You're in the grocery store line. You've already got a cart full of food. And you go, oh, yeah. Here's one I do. Those dried mangoes. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's grab that bag. It's right there at the register, for crying out loud. It's a compulsive buy. And it happens to be a food I absolutely love. The reminder there is I have to eat it with fiber. Well, it is fiber. I have to eat it with something else. Naked carbs is a term you should know. If you're eating your carbs without a protein or a fat, and if you don't know what any of those things are, you can't look at your foods and go, this is a protein, this is a fat. Start learning that. That one is huge so that you know, ooh, I'm going to eat this apple. That's a naked carb, which means my insulin's going to get spiked. And, well, let's take that back. Insulin's not going to get spiked because it's fruit. It's fructose. But it's a carb by itself. If I added in, say, peanut butter, a fat, now my body's got more work to do with that single sugar type, fructose. And I won't necessarily have a surge. It's so tricky, isn't it? Here's the thing about sugar addiction. It doesn't just affect your body, the way you look, how you feel, how you sleep, your mental health. They get tied in. Chronic high sugar intake increases anxiety and depression symptoms, creates brain fog and poor memory, disrupts your sleep cycle, and heightens inflammation throughout your entire body, systemic inflammation. Junk food was a term that we had. We had a junk food drawer at our house when I was a kid. There are alternatives. Yogurt. Well, actually, sugar hides in these things. These are probably your new junk drawer. Yogurt, salad dressings, protein bars, sauces, and quote unquote healthy cereals. Cereal's general statement. Leaving this addiction unchecked can change your life. It silently sets the stage for metabolic disorders, cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, which I'm going to tackle in the next solo episode, and hormone disruption. Track your sugars. That is the way. It's interesting to see how the brain responds to sugar. It's ridiculously similar to cocaine. Now, I have never in my life done cocaine, but the fMRI scans show that the reward center is flooded with dopamine, just like cocaine does. That's fascinating and scary. So we really should be thinking about sugar as a drug. In fact, we should be thinking about most of our foods as in that way to an extent. And again, that's going to be a topic we talk about on the next solo episode. Blood sugar crashes mimic withdrawal symptoms. Drug withdrawal symptoms. Isn't that crazy? Blows my mind. High sugar diets affect serotonin and dopamine levels, feeding mood disorders, bipolar mood disorders. Again, something I will talk about in the very controversial next solo episode. Check yourself if you're noticing you have compulsion around sugar. Notice if you're telling yourself, I have to hide this food from myself so that I can withdraw from it. And see if you're having withdrawal symptoms. Some of those symptoms could look like sweating, stress sweating, because, and this goes back to our cortisol conversation, but stress sweating because you can't have that food because you hid it from yourself, or you're not going to buy it because it's not right for you. That's a withdrawal. Notice if you can eat an entire sitting of anything in high sugar and not feel full after. That's overconsumption. Such a touchy subject because eating disorders are birthed out of this. Let's talk about diabetes. Again, this one's very near and dear because I have several family members who have battled type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder. It generally has an early onset, meaning you find out about it at younger and younger ages. The pancreas doesn't produce insulin. This makes up about 5 to 10% of diabetes cases. It's a very small number compared to type 2 diabetes. The stats on type 2 diabetes blow my mind. Type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance plus eventual insulin production decline. So it's the combination of those two. It's not just one of them. It's lifestyle influence, but also genetic. I am predisposed to diabetes because of the line of people that came before me with it. This one makes up the 90 to 95% of diabetic cases. 90 to 95%. Huge compared to type 1 diabetes. The general public doesn't know that they're at risk. What they've been told is there's no current risk. But if you live in the United States and you shop at a grocery store in the United States, I would say that you're probably at risk just by the foods that are presented to you at that grocery store. You should care because even without a diagnosis, insulin resistance can be brewing silently. Some of the early signs to pay attention to: fatigue, brain fog, belly weight, frequent cravings, mood swings. And the long-term things to look for: chronic inflammation, hormonal imbalances, increased aging. Those are the things to look for. When you hear a commercial on TV and they list off the billion things that come with the drug that they're trying to sell you, I just feel like when I say these things in general, that's what's happening. So just know those are some of the signs to pay attention to. Get tested. And if you live in the United States, I would be testing regularly. There are stats outside of the United States that are alarming, but not nearly as bad as the United States. So if you're listening in another country, check out the stats in your country compared to the United States. Prediabetes, or the genetic risk. 1 in 3 American adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. 80% don't even know it. That's scary. So this is where testing comes in. Your lifestyle trumps your genes. So diet, sleep, stress, exercise, those all play into your lifestyle. This is where epigenetics wins over genetics. I've had a couple of episodes where I talk about epigenetics, but one that stands out in particular, episode 58 with Susan Robbins. We went into unlocking the secrets of epigenetics for peak performance. That episode can really introduce you to epigenetics and understanding how that plays out over genetics. Cool thing about prediabetes, you can reverse it. Studies show weight loss and moderate exercise drop your risk by 58%. If you are a woman in your 40s, 50s, and this was the advice that was given to you, and you just wanted to choke slam the doctor because you've been doing those things and they're not working, there's a lot of other layers to look at. So again, when I'm telling you these things, just dig a little deeper. I can't cover all of it in this episode. For those of you who have been diagnosed with diabetes, type 1, it's autoimmune. It's about your pancreas and the fact that it makes little to no insulin. Lifestyle very much matters, and I guarantee you probably know that. I have a few friends who have type 1 diabetes. They have the pump on them. They've had the pump on them since they were in their teens. They understand how critical their lifestyle matters to their longevity. Type 2 diabetes is where it gets trickier because this is usually a later onset. You've set your ways. You eat a certain way. You do or don't exercise a certain way. And all of a sudden you're being told you're pre-diabetic. Now you're diabetic. And well, now you've got to have a shot all the time, every day. And you've got to check your blood sugar throughout the day, especially if you feel a little weird. And that little weird might mean that you're sick, or it might mean that it's, your blood sugar really going out of whack, low or high. It's wild to watch, and to watch how many finger pricks that I've seen my family members do to test their blood sugar. And sure enough, their blood sugar is out of whack. And oh, well, I didn't eat lunch, or oh, well, I ate this thing that probably set it off. Lifestyle matters. When your body's becoming resistant to insulin, pay attention and make shifts so that you can stop it in its tracks. It's hard to do. Get help. Hire somebody who can help you be accountable for the lifestyle changes that you know you want to make so that you don't become diabetic. My best piece of advice when it comes to this. I've had several people on that have talked about how they've helped people get out of diabetes, pre-diabetes. Go listen to some of those episodes. You can just do a general search in the Gutsy Chick podcast for diabetes, and you're going to get 5 or 6 episodes. Check that out. Some of my favorites are with Dr. Erica. She is phenomenal at helping people balance out their nutrition so that these types of things can be prevented. Type 3 diabetes. Not many people have heard about type 3 diabetes. This is where I'm going in the next episode, but a little teaser for that. This is where Alzheimer's and dementia are coming in. There's emerging evidence that links insulin resistance in the brain to cognitive decline. The brain literally becomes diabetic. Type 3 diabetes. We will dive much deeper into that in the next solo episode. So here are some stats that you need to know. 38 million Americans have diabetes. 38 million. Yeah. Another 96 million have pre-diabetes. Most of them are undiagnosed. That statistic is a little fuzzy since those people have been undiagnosed, which means they haven't been tested, but these are the numbers that we're looking at. 96 million. Globally, 537 million people have diabetes. That number is projected to hit 783 million by 2045, 20 years from now. Yeesh. Here's diabetes by age. 20 to 39-year-olds is 3.6%. This is in the US, and these numbers are from 2021 to 2023. 20 to 39-year-olds make up 3.6%. 40 to 59-year-olds, is 17.7%, and ages 60 and older is 27.3%. Undiagnosed diabetes prevalence, these numbers go down from what I just said, but 20 to 39-year-olds, it's 1 to 3%. 40 to 59-year-olds, it's 5 to 6%, and 60 and older is 6.8% of undiagnosed diabetes cases. This means that they're risking their lives without even knowing it on a day-to-day basis. The obesity correlation. Adults with obesity had a total diabetes prevalence of 24.2% compared to 6.8% in those with normal weight. So this is where they're like, oh, if you're obese, which some of those numbers are kind of screwy, but it's a trend. Pay attention to that trend. Most recently, someone very near and dear to me was told that they're obese. And when you look at this person, you're like, that's not even close to possible. They're roughly 6 foot tall and weigh close to 200 pounds, and they're being considered obese. And my mind was blown. So this whole obesity thing, it's some fuzzy science right now. The global diabetes trend is something to pay attention to. The United States leads when it comes to diabetes, but diabetes is growing across other countries, and it has to do with food source. It has to do with access to more refined sugars, more refined carbs. So here's my challenge to you. Take 3 days and track your sugar and fiber. All the sugars that you're consuming, not just the sweets, all of them. And then learn what has fiber in it and add more. Please, please, please add more fiber. So this is veggies, flax if you don't have an estrogen issue, chia seeds, beans. These are all fiber-rich foods. Add more. In fact, play around with doubling. Yeah, that's the fun one. Double the amount of veggies, chia seeds, beans, and other fiber-rich foods to your diet. And I don't mean go buy fiber-rich cereals either. That just look at your sugar when you're looking at those fiber-rich cereals. Challenge number 3, swap 1 sweetened drink a day for water with lemon, cinnamon, or electrolytes. If you remember back when I was talking about electrolytes, coconut water, watermelon water, prickly pear water. Yum, yum, yum. That one's one of my favorites. It comes in a box. You can find it at a natural food store, Whole Foods. 1 sweetened drink could mean your orange juice in the morning. It could mean your soda. Swap it for water with lemon, cinnamon, or electrolytes. Or all three, why not? I encourage you to journal how you feel after meals. Check your mood, your energy, your cravings. How do you feel? And if you're one of those people who is getting that after lunch dip, you need a nap, and you're reaching for the energy drink, replace that energy drink with an electrolyte drink. Please, please, please. Awareness is huge. Swapping out foods is simple. But here's another one. Don't skip meals. Don't skip breakfast. Don't skip lunch because you're too darn busy at work. Don't skip dinner. These all stabilize your blood sugar, especially if you're focused on proteins, fats, and fiber. Know your foods. Understand what's a fat. Peanut butter fascinates me. So this is one I'm just going to bring up. That one's a fat. Most people think it's a protein. Look into it. Figure out what foods are what in the macro department. Is it a protein? Is it a fat? Or is it a carb? Move your body. Sleep and stress play into this. We talked about that in the cortisol episodes. And I hope you stick around for the continuation of these 3 S's. More on insulin over the next 2 episodes beyond this one. And then we drop into oxytocin, one of my favorites. Please, please, please stick around. Let me know if this landed for you. Drop me a DM. Tell me a sugar story. Let me know if you're like me and have a ton of people in your family who have diabetes and you've watched them move through what it takes to survive that. Subscribe if this hit home. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to this longer episode on insulin and sugar. Hey, I just want to take a moment to talk to the women listening right now who are high-performing, strong-willed, self-competitive, and maybe a little too good at pushing through pain. You know who you are. You've built a life by going all in, whether it's your career, your sport, or your business. But lately, your body's been trying to get your attention, and not in a gentle way. It's screaming at you. If that's you, I created something for you. It's a private podcast called The Secrets of Body Whispering. And it's all about learning how to hear the subtle whispers your body is sending before they turn into full-blown screams and symptoms. I'm sharing the exact tools I use with my private one-to-one clients and group coaching clients to help them heal faster, move through chronic issues, and reconnect to the part of them that knows how to perform without burning out. So if you're ignoring the screams and you're ready to actually listen to what your body needs through the whispers, click the link in the show notes to get access. Yay! You made it to the end of the episode. Good job. Now, go share this with your friends. Go like, subscribe, leave me a review. Let me know that you like what's happening here on the Gutsy Chick podcast. And if you're a female high performer with mysterious chronic health condition, go check out the Gutsy Chick quiz so you can find out what might be holding you back from healing. And if you want more on what I do with my clients and my blog and any podcasts that I've been a guest on, go to bodywhisperhealing.com. Thanks for listening.